I was getting my video to edit and so forth, and up pops Michelangelo with Celibidache. Have you seen that video?
The Ravel.
Ravel.
Yes.
I don't know. I had never seen that before, and I thought, oh my God, I got to watch this. So that took care of a full hour, of studying that.
That recording, it's funny that you brought up that specific recording because that recording kind of changed my life. I remember I was walking down the street. I was, I think, 16 or 17 in Florence, where I grew up, and I was listening to that, not the video, but the recording of Ravel concerto played by Michelangelo. And I remember just thinking, this is what I want to do. It's funny that you brought up that specific recording because it was exactly that piece. And I just remember, it was a decisive moment somehow.
I was particularly struck by Celibidache's words at the beginning of this recording, where because these guys were both, it's no revelation, in a class by themselves, and known in some ways similarly for being scrupulously attentive to detail, come hell or high water. They didn't care, neither of them cared what other people were thinking about that. So Celibidache just says everything about Michelangelo that we know and that we hear made sense to Celibidache. He said, and this is the way should be. This is the way art.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're both quite stubborn in a similar way. I feel like both of them have very specific, very, in some ways, rigid ideas, but that recording somehow it's special, I think, because these two personalities come together in this stubbornness, and yeah, it's really a special recording.
Yeah, as I was waiting, there's a long pause when the audience quiets. There could easily have been a minute before they even walked on stage. And as I was sitting there thinking about these two personalities, I was thinking, this concert might not happen.
Right.
Yeah, and when it did, and I've only gotten through the second movement, by the way, I'm thinking to myself, this, because of these two guys and their approach to the music, this reaches a high point of art that nobody is ever going to experience ever again, and very, very likely. And I think much of the audience grasped that as well. And I just, as I looked at the orchestra, I think they were thinking that too. This is really unusual. Whether they felt lucky or you never know with orchestra players or imposed upon, they were in fact experiencing something quite singular.
I wonder what words were exchanged between the two of them at the end of the concert, if any. Maybe they didn't even say anything.
Yeah, wouldn't that be interesting? I think you should really ask our friend Noretta about that.
Oh, that's a great idea, actually.
In fact, we should have dragged her in for this
Into the chat.
maybe another day. Yeah. I heard Michelangelo in Vienna when I was a student.
Wow.
So he, again, it was amazing that the concert even happened. And everybody that was there realized that it was like, we don't know if there's going to be a concert until the first note sounds. So indeed, he played Gaspar, and he played, I can't remember what he started with, and I believe he played the Chopin Third, the B minor
Yeah.
sonata, and it was like church in Vienna, you can imagine, 1974, by the way. So
What an experience. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was a mind blower. So so you know you're from this Italian culture of you know great artists. I mean, not to mention the past of Italy, but the recent past with Abbado and Bruno Canino and who else did I hear in Vienna? Udo Ugi, was that his name?
Uto Ugi, yeah.
Yeah. Um, and of course Paulini and Michelangelo, and you could name many, many others. But there is this sense of perfection, isn't there? Among
Yes, I think I've always been slightly annoyed by that, actually. I think in a way, it's, you know, if you look at it from the outside, it's something very, it's something that's fascinating and quite appealing to observe. But I think coming to it from the inside, it can be quite claustrophobic for creativity. So I think it has, like everything, it has a good side and a bad side. And in a way, I appreciate that a lot more now that I'm not living in that environment. Even just, you know, the architecture or the beauty that you see walking on the streets. When I go back to Italy, well, I mean, I haven't been there in a while because of the current situation, but when I go back, I'm much more amazed now, having, you know, come out of it and lived in very different places and with a different lifestyle as well. So, but I think that, yeah, growing up inside this aesthetic can be a blessing and a curse in a way.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, London is a liberating place. Let's face it.
Yeah, it is,
I
absolutely.
mean, did you feel that when you? How long have you been in London now?
So I've been here, I moved to London in 2015, and then last year, actually, I moved back to Italy. And then I moved back this year. So in a way, it was kind of just I had a little break from London for a year because it was exhausting as well as liberating and very inspiring. But now I think, as you said, it is liberating. It is, it's a very vibrant city for music, for creativity in general. I think what I love about it is that I've found a community of musicians and of artists, and I've found so much support and love and encouragement from my friends and colleagues, and so much diversity and so much variety in especially in the music world, but in general in lifestyles and in, you know, ways of shaping your own career as well. So that helped me also lose a sense of duty regarding how I was supposed to build my career. You know, you do this and then you do competitions, and then, you know, it was much more, I feel much freer. And yeah.
What always struck me about London was the relaxed excellence, I would call it. The Brits are amazing musicians. You have 5 major orchestras in that one city. And I remember when the BBC orchestra came here, and they started with Afternoon of a Faun. And so the flute, as soon as he started playing, I think nobody's ever heard of this principal flute player. Of course, in London they had. This guy was astonishing. You could never play more beautifully than this guy did. But the Brits are so humble about their own excellence. That must be a kind of a relief.
It is. I think, yes, there is you're right. They're humble. Also, sometimes it can feel a bit repressed at times, actually. So it can go a bit too far in that direction. I think sometimes, I remember when I played in the US, what I loved was the enthusiasm of the audience. And I could feel that the audience really wanted to have a good time. People wanted to enjoy themselves and listen to some good music and have fun, and then come and talk to me afterwards. And I really found that energizing. But you're absolutely right. There is a kind of understated creativity in the air here.
I wonder if that has too to do with the theater. You know, when you go to a play, I was just saw an RSC. The Taming of the Shrew. You have some of the greatest actors of the world, and then it's over and everybody leaves. It's like, this is just a norm. You know, this is what we do every day. You know, you have Ian McKellen every day.
Yeah, I mean, I think the theatre is such a big part of culture in London, and it's something that definitely I was missing, I think, back in Italy. It's really inspiring, not just the big companies, but also just small fringe theatres that you know, find just walking around in East London. It's really top level. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, I guess my first introduction to that, I forgot about that guy. When I was I will never get over my Vienna days, and it may come up a couple times. I got to pause for a second.
Yeah.
Hey, don't I'm getting a lot of conversation from there. Yeah. So I was part of the Edward Melkus scene, whom you may have never heard of. He's still a violinist, and he was very close with Chris Hogwood. So we were all hanging out at my house till quite late with and drinking that great white Austrian wine with Christopher Hogwood and some of our other buddies. It's all string players that were playing with Melkus. And again, I was just struck by how, you know, he did not have any of the Michelangeli, the sense of untouchable. He was just in there hanging out, being just one of the blokes, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, but that's, you know, I think I love that. That's, you know, we're all human beings.
Yeah. So tell me, what do you see down the road, Jonathan? Say, do you have any idea what 5 years down the road looks like for you?
Well, you know, I think my answer would probably be much different if you asked me this 6 months ago. I think the whole situation with the pandemic has obviously changed everything. I mean, there are certain projects that I have that I would love to work on. I've just started working on the Goldberg variations, which is one of my lifelong dreams. So that's something that I just started with no deadline, with no expectation of getting anywhere or completing anything. But it's something that I would love to work on in depth and possibly, hopefully, perform in some shape or form. That's at the top of my list. Also, something I really miss is chamber music. So now that things are starting to open up again, I've been in touch with a few friends that I'm looking forward to playing with again at some point. And also, another thing that I've been thinking about is recording, which is something that I've always been very scared of, to be honest. It's something that I feel quite uncomfortable with, and I've probably had the most annoying and frustrating experiences in recording than I've had with, you know, anything else. But I've recently developed a strange affection for it, and I would love to record some Bach especially. So that's something that I'm thinking about. I'd like to find the opportunity to record in a nice venue with a good piano, if possible, and just have some time to record some of Bach's music. So I think those things, and you know, also what's been going on in the last few months has made me understand that so much is out of our control, and that's also something to embrace in a way. And so I'll just wait and see what happens. And right now I'm focused on, you know, Sunday's concert and the things that I mentioned. Yeah.
Sure. Are you working with any, did you meet any composers over the last couple of years, play their music?
It's funny you mentioned that. Just this morning, I got a message from a good friend of mine who is writing a piece for piano, and we had spoken about collaborating a while ago, and so now he's going to send me over some material to look at. I have to confess, I have played very little contemporary music, and it's not out of a not wanting to play contemporary music. It's just that I've been occupied with other repertoire. And I've always thought I want to, you know, look at contemporary music seriously and not, you know, as I'll play this 2-minute piece in my 1-hour program just to tick that box. So it's something that I'm just starting to get into, I have to say. But I would love to play some music, but especially I think what I care about is to know the composer. I think that's to have that relationship
Why
and that
not?
collaboration.
Why not? Since you
Yeah.
have the opportunity, um, you know, if you start performing your colleagues' music, you will be deluged with opportunity.
Yeah.
So it's important to find people who have funding for
Yeah.
the concert as you choose your friends.
Right.
Hi, if you'd like to be a friend, please check this box here. Funding.
Yeah.
We have funding for our friendship. So yeah. So here on this end, what we're seeing is an absolute deluge of online content. And I know you're seeing it there as well. It started happening immediately, and the more famous the musician was, the yo-yos and so forth, the Herbies and the yo-yos, I call them, the less it cost. It was free because they already have an income stream. And then you have the folk singer down the street who puts his PayPal line up there, and some of my colleagues are actually depending on that income. They do
Right.
a daily show. You know, some of the jazz musicians, and I don't need to tell you, it's a struggle, and this is still going on. And there's another thing that's going on, and that is really essential is the quality. And I think that aside from the artistry, the quality of the presentation is, you know, right under number 1.1, I should say. I know a major, I can send it to you later if you remind me, Miho Azama, who is now conducting the Denmark Radio Jazz Orchestra.
Okay.
She just posted something yesterday of the orchestra, which is extremely clever. You know, you had a video editor, a filmmaker who got involved, and all of a sudden you really have something. So it wasn't just, you know, Zoom blocks. It was very artistic in the presentation. And I've been waiting. Juilliard did a thing with their ballet. They did what was it, Love for Three Oranges? No. It was Prokofiev, Romeo and Juliet.
Romeo and Juliet.
I don't know if you saw that.
No, I haven't seen it.
Have a look. It's just extraordinary. It was just the dancers in their living rooms and bathrooms.
Right.
These
Oh yes, no, I think I have seen that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this is what we're going to see, because clearly the cheek by jowl concert, where I'm inches away from in every direction. It's I don't see that anytime soon, you know. So I think we're all going to have a different model, and I'm wondering if you're talking to your colleagues about that.
Well, yeah, I think it's been, I think everyone has had a slightly, I've seen different approaches to this situation in the music world. People who have right away jumped into live streams and recordings and social media and posting and sharing. And on the other hand, like myself, people who have taken some time to, you know, as a retreat in a way. And I feel like I'm just coming out of that space now. I think I needed some silence and some space to make sense of some things, and also just do some work without expectations or pressure or deadlines. So I think now I'm starting to have these conversations that you're talking about. So for instance, thinking about how to structure performances, how to share content in a way that is creative and not just some substitute to the live performance. But it's really not easy, and I think as you mentioned, you do need good quality. You know, you need good microphones, you need good, you know, whatever the equipment is, but you do need a level of, and if it's live, you do need a good internet connection, you need good streaming services. So all of that, I think it's quite early days, and I'm open to suggestions. I'll try anything.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, you're seeing what people are doing as much as I am. I would tell you an important innovation is, and I'll send you the link. We presented Dan Tepfer recently. So Dan has a scientific background as well as learning his Hanon, and so he was able to hack the whole system, his router and everything. And so when he does his concerts now, he does duos. With
Right.
someone in some other
Yeah.
part of the planet, and he's able to get rid of the latency, and they actually play together.
That's
And
incredible.
so,
Yeah.
I showed this to one of the fathers of my students, who's a geek of the first class geek. He said this is actually quite complicated, and he said someone's going to come along with an app, and when they come along with an app, then you and I and everybody else will be doing our Brahms piano quintet and so forth. I hope. I'm hoping this is quite soon, because the gap between what was going on in February and where we are now is severe and crippling.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I wanted to talk about a very important part of your work and your life and your discipline, and that is your devotion to yoga. And how that, I want to hear about how it interacts with your concentration, your focus on movement, all these things. The relationship to music is so obvious, but I want to hear from you how that works.
Well, I think it's a hard question to answer. I think in my mind, the two things, so yoga and music, are not separated. So in a way, it's all research for me. Just research into myself, into what it means to be a human being, into presence, authenticity. So in my mind, it's kind of all one thing. It's all a search for unity, which is what yoga is. But obviously there are some more tangible relationships between the two. Of course, the physical aspect in yoga is especially in Ashtanga yoga, which is what I practice, is quite strong, and I think just getting to know and understand how your body works and be present in every part of the body is something that definitely helps with being present on stage, with understanding how the body is moving and understanding how the breath is moving in the body. So the physical aspect is certainly something that links the two. But especially, I think for me, yoga is a meditative practice as well as a physical practice. And it really is a search for being present in the moment, which is what the ideal state of mind in a musical performance is. So I think those are the main things. And also just this, it's a daily practice for me. So it's in a way, it becomes like brushing your teeth. You know, it's something that if I don't do yoga for a couple of days, my friends will notice that I'm grumpy and that I'm irritable and that I'm just all over the place. And so it's something that I really need as a kind of mental hygiene and physical exercise as well. But the two have become, in a way, inseparable because, as I said, I think that it's all about research and understanding and getting to know yourself and getting to be yourself in the truest possible way and kind of noticing where you aren't being truthful to yourself. And I think in a performance, we're always working towards authenticity, not just in the philological, historical sense, but mostly in the human sense and in the emotional sense. So I think I hope that makes sense. It as I said, in my mind, they're part of the same thing, just part of.
That's kind of what I was getting at. I understand that fully, and I think as a as a piano player myself, we're talking about. Well, I don't know where to start. You know, it's so complicated. It's physical. It's mental. The ideal is that it's spiritual, and you know, how do you connect the motions of your fingers with spirit and with your own spirit? Not to mention trying to convey. I mean, if you think about what we do as piano players, conveying art and spirituality to other people or to 2,000 people at the same time, it sounds like a crazy
Of course,
concept.
yeah.
But as we know, and anyone who is in music and maybe and others outside of music, but especially in music, we do have a particular sensitivity to all the complications that we're trying to bring in to focus on the matter at hand.
Absolutely. Yeah, and also I think, you know, in a way, if you take away all the technicalities and all the form, so if you take away, you know, the technique, you know, the fact that you're moving your fingers and you're reading a score, and to make a parallel with yoga, if you take away the fact that, you know, you're trying to put your leg behind the head or you're trying to, you know, stand on your head, it's just techniques that we're using to get to something, to get to a sense of unity, a sense of oneness, I think.
You know, I've mentioned this before because the subject has stayed with me for decades. When I was in Vienna, I told you I'd bring that up again. Pollini was just emerging like out of a cocoon. He was about 28, I think, at the time. And he was treated by the Viennese students and faculty like a major rock star. And you know, he could not leave the stage before he did 5 encores. He would have to come out
Right.
and close kindly and politely, turn the lid down and say that, you know, see you tomorrow night.
Right.
But then I 2 years later, and he would run on stage, Jonathan. I first heard him in a small concert, and if you know these stages in Vienna, it's called the Mozart Saal in the Concerthaus. Maybe 250 seats. He came out and did Debussy, and then Out of Doors, and Boulez's Second Sonata. And then he proceeded to do, for encores, he did Webern and Schoenberg, and it was just a ridiculous concert, you know. And the audience was basically on its feet for at least half the time he was there. But also, I have to point out that when he came on stage, he ran. He was like leaping out on stage. You know, he knew what he was in for. I heard him at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. He did the Symphonic Etudes opus of Schumann, Opus 109 of Beethoven. A couple of years later, the audience, you know, like this, it was half full in the concert hall, and he didn't play the same. He wasn't the same human being. What are you going to say about that? He was no longer the super magnetic, driven artist when he came out on that stage. You could see it.
Yeah.
That he needed. My point here is that the audience didn't give it to him. You see.
Well, that's so interesting. I mean, I don't know Paulini, so I can't say that I understand. But yeah, I guess we all go through different phases and different, and also, you know, people around us change as well. But it's, I think the life of any artist is not a straight line, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jonathan, we have a concert coming up on Sunday.
Yes.
And really pleased that you could do this. This is, of
So
course,
am I.
hosted by a number of people, by our friends in New York with Caroline von Reitzenstein, who is, of course, the daughter of John Leach and of the Keyboard Trust, and his wife Noretta Conchi, who is a driving force behind everything we do, and also the group in Philadelphia and in Wilmington, and the Arts Club of Washington. I certainly hope that you can get over here before too many years go by, and
yes, I hope so.
and do something on the stage at the Arts Club. It's a small theater, but it's a nice Steinway, and it's a good setting. So we're all very pleased that this is working out in this way.
I'm very excited, yeah, and I'm glad that it could happen somehow. Obviously, I'm sad that I can't be there in person, but I have to say I did a live stream concert just last week, and I didn't know what to expect, but the power of the imagination is really strong, and I think it really gets you very far. So I'm very excited.
So Jonathan, thank you. See you Sunday. And
yeah, see you on Sunday.
And then we'll have a chat on the other side as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Great pleasure.